Hello, US101 CCAP class. So there's a few things that I want to go over. I'm going to cover a summary of our last week and go over the discussion, but also I need to address a few things. So first of all, we are almost done. We are literally almost done. And I have been allowing a lot of late work. And so let me just make this clear on the late work part. This Sunday is the last day I can take late work. If you need to give me late work, or you feel that you need to give me late work, or you want to have any discussion about that, meet with me with Zoom Office tonight, Zoom Office hours, to have a discussion about that. I'm because of Thanksgiving coming up, which I hope you have a good one. I'm having Zoom Office hours this week here Tuesday night. You can also write to me on Canvas or give me some messages, but the time just ran out, and it kind of crept up on me as well. I don't have time to grade everybody's work, have the finals coming up, grade them, and then take a flood of late work. So, again, I'm open. You can have a conversation with me if you're in some sort of trouble or on the cusp, and something about getting it the last in on Sunday is going to be an issue for you. I can try to see what we can work out. I just need you to contact me directly and be very proactive. I'm getting a lot of emails right now about this because so many people are now, it always happens, just the last week or two before the semester's over. Now folks want to hurry up and double down and get things done. But this is really, I've been allowing for late work for full points the whole time. And I don't have time. I can't do that all the way up to the very end. So, yeah. But I want to help you. So I don't know. You need to reach out to me and talk to me before. But if you send me any late work after Sunday, I'm 100% not looking at it. Okay. So don't try to sneak it in that way. All right. I promise you, I'm not going to grade it. You have to contact me before. If anything comes and I look on the computer and I'll see anything comes after this Sunday that's late, you don't get, unless we had a conversation. Okay. Now, here's the other thing. The videos. I have a lot of students that brought up kind of later on the issue of the John Brown video. And a lot of folks, instead of writing to me, so I have some students who, when they see that a video is not working, they write to me on Canvas and they say, Mr. Pollock, I'm having an issue. And part of the issue that we've had all the time, and which is I'm still trying to understand how to resolve with CCAP classes, because many of you are not 18 yet. I mean, even my Gettysburg Address video was blocked for many of you, or is being blocked for this week. And I put a link on there, and hopefully that link will fix it. I didn't even know. In Gettysburg Address, it's blocking from minors because, I don't know, of the grimness of war or something. But this is a college class. We're teaching college-educated level things. And so the John Brown video gets blocked for some of you. And this is like this was the fundamental part of the whole week's discussion. It was for an essay to be written about. Like, this was a big deal, the John Brown video. And instead of some of you writing to me on Canvas and saying, Mr. Pollock, can you help me with this? Or what are we going to do with this? Folks just sent the notes and said, video unavailable. Well, not half the students did the video and others half didn't. So what I see is that it was accessible, but there was some other way to get to it. And that's something that could have also been discussed in your class. You guys are all together collectively working in the classroom and nobody's helping. The bottom line is that's we're not bypassing this. So on the video notes and the assignment, if you didn't have access to it, then I'll give you full credit for it. But find out from your other classmates. I don't know, like half other folks have access to it. Even if it's your parents, getting on there for you, the video, the John Brown. Unfortunately, I noticed this issue when I started just grading and seeing that folks were saying, I can't open up the John Brown video, even though it was a fundamental part of the week. So If anybody wants to talk to me today, remember, I'll be available for Zoom office hours. I try to be approachable. I'm tired too. I understand it's the end of the semester, but there's some fundamental things we've got to cover. So I need you guys to be proactive in your education. This is how college is going to work. Things go wrong, and it's not your fault, but also you got to communicate them, because I still got to make sure that this gets brought into the curriculum for you. So I'm not bypassing it. So we're gonna add John Brown in, and you can just turn it in late. But we got to make sure we get that covered. Okay. So let's then look at what we covered for the week. I mean, part of the issue is, at least you noticed it in some of my videos. I'm making a case that John Brown and Bleeding Kansas was a huge part of the precursor to the Civil War, because it was already Americans killing each other over the topic of slavery. And why I really want to also put such a strong emphasis on this, and why I want to make sure that we're all having access to this information, is that, and you'll see that in the United States, a huge amount of Americans think the Civil War, the U.S. Civil War, was about something other than slavery. They talk about states' rights. And I don't just mean people from the South or even pro-Confederate, or necessarily like it's some sort of hardline ideological drive, although there are those people out there. But there's still some lack of clarity about just how much the Civil War was about slavery. And by the time we're done with this class, you're going to see the primary sources show over and over again that the southern states outwardly proclaimed that their whole reason was for slavery. And that we were seeing those battles for slavery and the passion there, that folks were moving into Kansas, as we were seeing, just to make sure that Kansas would be a slave state. And folks were moving into Kansas that were against slavery just to try to make sure it wouldn't become a slave state. That is a serious amount of devotion to the topic of slavery, that you would get yourself and sometimes your families in wagons to go to a place, not necessarily because it looks pretty and you like what you hear about how much opportunity is there, just to try to make sure that it doesn't become a slave state. And then, as the violence gets going, that we even have people getting hacked up with hatchets and all this, American against American, white Americans against white Americans, over the topic of slavery. So, and then there's this whole question about the whole issue, what we see with the idea of political violence, and how to think about that, and all sorts of things. So we covered a lot of that in week 13. The video goes into great detail, the documentary. And then we had the discussion on the assignment dealing with looking at Calhoun, Jefferson, and Wheatley. And we saw, addressed what Thomas Jefferson said, what Calhoun said, and we have an African-American woman who's writing very sophisticated poetry, pretty weighty intellectual topics, while simultaneously she's being personally called out by Jefferson to say that she doesn't write good poetry, and that he even goes so far as basically make the argument that for black folks of African ancestry, that there's no poetry within them, that they're not even capable of it. That's the kind of serious racism that comes into his wording. And so I feel like a lot of you, as I read the discussions, I think everyone consistently kind of saw the primary sources for what they were, and they saw her literary legacy and were impressed and realized, the problems and the contradictions that were happening through the legacy of what was going on in the United States, and this whole build-up to the U.S. Civil War, and the question of slavery itself. And John C. Calhoun talking about the peculiar institution that he wants to, there's calling it it's a higher good, or I forget the exact phrasing, but he's like saying, wow, slavery is really a good thing. and then we're going to see, for this week, that rhetoric keeps coming up out of the slave owners and those who want to support slavery in the United States. And so it's a grim topic. It's unfortunate, but it's very important to understand and to put in context to how we got to where we're at. And so looking at the work, what you guys are mainly seeing and has addressed has been fine. I think really the biggest glitch we've had is with accessibility to many of the videos. And so again, what I just want to remind you, you have a classroom where you even have a teacher there who also, when you're seeing a video is not working, you could ask your teacher to contact me, you could contact me, or you could ask your teacher to figure out how is it possible that there could be access to the videos. But there's never, if I have a video out there and you're having a difficulty accessing it, you have to contact me. Like we got to find access to it. Now, when a video is completely wiped out on YouTube and nobody's able to get it in, I always say, okay, well, we can't do anything about that. But I want to remind you that it's easy sometimes when something's not working to then just assume that you don't have to address it. But like I said, half the students did it and the other half said it didn't open. So it just means it's doable, but how we needed to have that addressed in the middle of the week before the assignment was due. And so anyhow, I hope that won't happen again. But we're also almost done. And like I said, we're also getting burned out. And I understand Thanksgiving is coming up. And look, I hope you have a good time with your family. Sometimes people have great times with their family. Other times they don't have a great time with their family. Food's expensive. Despite what some people might say, I try to gaslight us into thinking that it's not expensive right now. But, and of course, there's even the topic about, what we've learned from this history, is that a settler colonial holiday is respectful to indigenous people. There's all this kind of stuff. Look, what I hope that you all do is find a space to enjoy your life and be thankful for the positive things. And, and look, like I said, and let's be thankful that you're able to get a good education and also that it'll end soon and you'll get a break and hopefully be able to just get some extra relaxing time before Christmas. But for now, we're in the thick of work, thick of college life, education, and don't give up. Let's keep the momentum to the very end, and we'll be in touch.